Why is it that some singers are able to sing rock high notes with power and commitment all the way into their 70s and 80s, while others get to a time in their life where their voice gives out and they're not able to do it anymore? Is it a difference of vocal technique? Is it lifestyle? What are the things that play into this? This is something that I think about a lot as a vocal instructor. I'm doing this video about Teddy Swims because I want to break down his vocal technique and discuss, is the way he's singing actually healthy and going to provide for him longevity into the future so that we can keep enjoying him for the next decades to come? That's what I want to get into this video in reacting to the latest version of Lose Control that he just released from what he's calling his Village Sessions. He dropped it like almost a couple weeks ago, and I'm super excited to react to this. I love Teddy Swims. I'm a huge fan of him. I used to follow him back when he was a YouTuber back in the day, just doing covers before he started releasing all this amazing original music. So I've been along for the journey with Teddy Swims, and I care about him. I care about his voice. I want to make sure that he's singing far into the future. So I'm going to comment on his singing a bit to say what I think about the vocal health, what he's doing technically, how much does it cost the voice. I just reacted to the song actually yesterday by Dimash Kudaibergen and Shantae Moore. They did a cover of it on Competition show, and it was really interesting to hear that version of it compared to the Teddy Swims version, which I know so well because I've worked on it with several students of mine. But this is a new recording that Teddy just dropped, and I can't wait to hear what his vocal tone is like in this recording. So my name's Tim. I'm a vocal instructor. I've been at this for almost a quarter of a century. I teach opera, pop, jazz, musical theater, heavy metal. I'm in the Manhattan tri-state area. I have an amazing team of teachers that work with me. You can find out about us here. We also teach online if you want to study with us from far away. All right, we're going to jump right in. Here we go.
Something's got a hold on me lately. No, I don't know myself anymore. Feels like the walls are all closing in, and the devil's knocking at my door. Whoa, out of my mind. How many times did I tell you I'm no good at being alone? Yeah, it's taking a toll on me, trying my best to keep from tearing the skin off my bones. Don't you know I lose control when you're not next to me? I'm falling apart right in front of you. Can't you see? I lose control when you're not next to me. Yeah, you're breaking my heart, baby. You make a mess of me. Problematic, problem is to want your body like a fiend, like a bad habit. Bad habits hard to break when I'm with you. Yeah, I know I can do it on my own, but I want that real full moon black magic, and it takes two. Problematic. Problem is when I'm with you, I'm an addict, and I need some relief. My skin and your teeth can't see the forest through the trees. Got me down on my knees, darling, please. I'm falling apart right
Teddy Swims, God, that tone quality. That is so, so, so killer. Man, this is a great performance. This is a pretty straightforward performance. It's not too much of a variation from the way that he sings it in the version that we all heard already. There's just maybe a little bit more texture in his tone quality, a little bit more warmth, a little bit more grit. It's a pretty relaxed performance. I don't know. I have to say, my first impression of it is it doesn't feel really that different from what we've heard of him doing it before. I feel like he's such a great improvisational artist. I wouldn't have minded hearing him reinvent it a little bit, maybe into the bridge, doing something different. Because if you notice on this song, depending on if you get the studio version or that live shot where it's like all that red studio and he's got the trench coat thing, he does the bridge differently in both of those recordings. So I was excited to think, oh, he's going to maybe do something a little bit different here. But I don't know. This just seemed like a pretty forward, straight through sing of it relative to the other recording, except for like maybe his tone has a little more texture in it. So I'm going to go back and start breaking down a little bit what I'm hearing, and we're going to open up to that topic that I brought up in the video earlier about vocal health. Like, how is he singing right now? Is this a healthy way to sing? And do I think that he has longevity into the future? Let's go back and check out some of that now.
Something's got a hold on me lately. No, I don't know myself anymore.
Okay, first thing that I find interesting about the way Teddy swims, it's something that's really cool and something I don't hear a lot of other voice teachers talk about. It's something that I call pre-singing, where you do this like little energetic subglottic air pressure buildup pickup into the sound, into the phrase, and then that gives it a little more punch, a little more brass. Listen back for that.
Something's
Did you hear that? Pre-singing. He does that a lot. It's a great way to get a little punch and edge in your voice without needing to blast a note, because he's not blasting here.
Something's got a hold on me lately. No, I don't know myself anymore.
Now, what else is going on in this tone? Oh, it's so silky. There's so much going on. Now, he has a very high voice. If you listen to the ping and the ring in his voice, he's definitely a tenor. But what he's doing is he's adding a little bit of internal space in his singing, which is giving that brass, that bite, that pointiness of his voice a little bit more warmth. So he's got the bite, he's got the point, but he also has a little bit of space inside, which gives the warmth. But that's not the only thing that he's putting into that tone. He also has a mastery, I mean absolute mastery, of his control of what I call false vocal fold grit, which we achieve that by compression. Something. That little lateral squeeze we put on the voice. He's a master of that sound, an absolute master of that sound. So that's why we love his tone so much. It's pointy, it's edgy, but it's warm, and it's got this scratchy, edgy husk on it, which just adds this sort of bad boy roughness to the tone, which is just so freaking cool. That's what he's doing right here. Listen for all of those elements in his singing.
Something's got a hold on me lately. No, I don't know myself anymore.
Notice how relaxed he is too. Notice how he's not fighting his voice, even though it's got all this grit and this edge on it.
Feels like the walls are all closing in, and the devil's knocking at my door. Whoa.
Something else I have to talk about that's super important. Notice how there's these little head movements as he's riffing. This is important. This isn't just him showing off the notes. This is an actual technical thing. When we're working on riffing and we want to do it at a high speed, you need to think about it like this. The voice is not like a keyed instrument, like a piano where you can, you're just hitting different notes quickly. The voice is more like a trombone in the way that it changes pitch. The chords lengthen and shorten. So when you're changing pitch quickly, it's like like a slide whistle or something. So there's a tendency for the voice to have a sliding sound to it, but you've got to, when you're doing fast-moving things, give it this twitchy angularness to make it sound clear and articulate to the listener. So what are the ways that we do that as a singer? One way we do that as a singer is through fast movement of the larynx. You You can kind of see my larynx shifting around pretty quickly there when I was doing that sound. Now, that's one part of doing it, and arguably the primary part of doing it. A secondary part of doing it is the you're reshaping your mouth as you're changing pitch as well. And the third thing is we're also going to have our head tilting a little bit up and down as we go higher or lower in riffing, which also causes a slight change to the space inside of the mouth and throat, which also adds a little bit of newness every time we change notes. Because every time we have a slightly different variation in the amount of space inside of our throat when we're riffing, or we're changing the vowel slightly, it's giving the listener a sense of moving faster and more accurately. But if you do it without these little tricks in there, it just sounds mushy. It sounds like that. So you can see here Teddy Swim's head is kind of moving a little bit with his riffing. That's because he's an amazing riffer, and that's what you're supposed to do technically. Let's go back and look at all that.
And the devil's knocking at my door.
See that?
Oh,
See his head moving?
How many times did I tell you I'm no good at being alone?
Ooh.
It's taking a toll on me, trying my best to keep from tearing the skin off my bones. Don't you know?
Notice how little mouth space he's had in his singing up to this point. Very natural, not a ton of mouth space. Yet he has all of that texture and all of that warm, rich tone quality. How is he doing it without opening his mouth so much? Internal space. The lifting of the soft palate, the space in the back behind his tongue. He's getting a nice pocket back there, which is giving him access to that warmth. So he doesn't need all that mouth space. And that's one of the great tricks you can think about using when you're singing if you want to go fast. If you want to go fast, you don't want to be moving everything around too much because you need to have everything close to one another to move quickly. Like a pianist playing really quickly, their fingers aren't flopping all around. They're over here. Their fingers aren't flopping all around when they do it. They're really tight to the keyboard, right? Teddy Swims is doing the equivalent of that here with his voice. Now, once he gets to the high notes and he starts belting, you're going to see him opening his mouth more because that's what we need to do when we get to the top of our belt voice, the top of gear 1 of our chest voice. Let's watch this transition into him opening his mouth more into the chorus.
My best to keep from tearing the skin off my bones. Don't you know I lose control?
Did you see him reshaping his mouth as he was That's just like that thing I was telling you earlier. You need to make a new experience at each change of pitch when you're going quickly so that we can hear the newness of the note and it registers to us as fast, clear articulation. Listen back for that again. See his mouth?
When you're lying next to me, I'm falling apart right in front of you. Can't you see? I lose control when you're lying next to me. Yeah, you're breaking my heart, baby. You make a mess of me.
All right, so is he going to be able to sing like this forever or not? That's the big question here. My feeling is yes. I think he's doing this in a pretty healthy way. I teach grit a lot. This has become a big part of my studio, of the vocal techniques that I teach, because the world loves gritty sounds these days. Everyone wants that texture to their tone. So I've been on a quest to figure out how to do it in the healthiest way possible and to understand what is unhealthy about it if you're doing it wrong. And if you notice the way he's doing it here, he's not fighting his voice. He's not overly muscling into it. It doesn't seem like it's costing him a lot, because it's not. When we get those gritty, we get those extra gritty sounds in our voice, if we're doing it right, we're not doing it at the vocal fold level. We're doing it by vibrating mucosal membranes and other things in the vocal chain post-vocal fold. That's where that edgy sound comes from. It's not the vocal fold. So someone who hasn't studied this technique very much might think, oh my God, he's hurting his voice. I don't want to do that to my voice. Well, the thing that's making that gritty sound, it's not his vocal fold. So I'm not concerned about the way he's singing here at all. The big thing that I look for when I'm starting to go, oh, about someone's vocal technique is I'm looking at the subglottic air pressure. I'm thinking about how much of a brunt of pressure the vocal folds are taking in the sound. His voice is so high that he doesn't need to work very hard to create sound at this pitch. He is the best case of a singer who sings high rock stuff. Because his voice is so high, he just adds a little extra color to the sound instead of adding extra muscle. For someone with my vocal weight, because I'm more of a baritone, I'm a lower voice type, if I were to sing that high and try to add grit to it and press and go for it, my voice is going to fatigue a lot faster than someone with Teddy Swims' height of a voice. Teddy Swims is definitely a tenor, so it doesn't cost him this much to sing this high. He just adds a little bit of depth, adds a little bit of that sexy tone, and he's good to go. You can tell that by how much he's not working here. So good.
Problematic. Problem is to want your body like a fiend, like a bad habit. Bad habits hard to break when I'm with you.
Notice how in his tone, sometimes it's super brassy. Bad habits hard to break. And then other times, when I'm with you. Then he's got that little scratchy husky tone. He moves so seamlessly between his brass and his wind in his tone. And he also throttles the amount of grit he has on his voice so well.
Yeah, I know I can do it on my own, but I want that real full moon black magic, and it takes two.
Also notice his vowels. I could do it on my own. He's got this like lateral vowel thing that he's doing, which is definitely an R&B soul type of a thing.
Problematic. Problem is when I'm with you, I'm an addict, and I need some relief. My skin and your teeth can't see the forest through the trees. Got me down on my knees, darling, please. Oh.
One of the things that's made this song so big is Teddy Swims is super expressive, super emotional, and this tone he has just perfectly represents the expression and the meaning of the song. You know, this song about feeling so infatuated and fixated on your partner that you feel like it's awakened that addictive part of yourself, the angst and the turmoil that comes with that. Can you think of a better tone to represent that expressive state than what Teddy Swims has? I mean, perfect. We all can relate to this. And this is something I talk about all the time. When something vocally doesn't sound right, it doesn't sound right because, well, number one, it's out of tune. That can be something that kills anything. But if we're talking about something that is in tune already, the thing that can make it not work is your tone quality doesn't match what is expressively going on in the song. And Teddy Swims, his tone quality matches incredibly well to what's going on in the song. And that's one of the biggest reasons that we love this song.
I lose control when you're not next to me. I'm falling apart right in front of you. Can't you see?
He has some of the best grit control out of any of the contemporary commercial music singers out there today right now. It's just so refined. His ability to create control of the false vocal folds to give varying amounts of grit is so good. At a low level of squeeze, there's a little bit of creaky door sound. At a high level of squeeze, we get into these growly sounds. He's going back and forth between how much he's using them in such a brilliant way. Sometimes you're going to see artists who use it in a way that they're hiding their technique. Teddy Swims is doing it in a way that he's painting. He's using vocal paintbrushes and coloring his tone. So what could be the thing that could affect his longevity as a singer? It's this: performing too frequently and lifestyle stuff. I don't know about his background as a human being, but the way that you live your life, the kind of partying you're doing, that type of thing can have a big impact on your vocal health, just out of the gate. Like, nothing to do with vocal technique, that's all lifestyle. Second thing is, if he's performing too much, if he takes too many gigs back to back to back to back and he's not letting his voice rest when it needs to rest, that's what can kill him. I think that that's what happens to a lot of these major artists personally. I think that's the big thing that messes with vocal health. Imagine that you just sold out Madison Square Garden and you performed and you gave this solid 2-hour performance, and then you need to the next day do that again, but you wake up, you weren't feeling 100%, you didn't sleep well, and your voice feels like crap the next day. You don't have the luxury to say, I think I need to take off the day. Lots of people are depending on this experience. So in that situation, instead of you taking the day off and resting, what do? You talk to your vocal teacher, voice doctor that's on tour with you, get them to give you a shot of prednisone to bring the swelling down on your vocal folds so you can get through the day. That's dangerous, but I think that that's the thing that's causing a lot of this level of singer to blow out their voices. I don't think it's as much vocal technique. I do think technique can play a part of it, but I think by and large, it's the demands of touring and the demands of the singing that end up ultimately getting a lot of these artists. I think Teddy Swims has a great vocal technique for a grit rock singer.
I lose control.
Notice how he cleaned up his voice a little bit here, how the tone doesn't have as much grit. There's a little more lightness in his compression, but he didn't let the compression go all the way. There's still a little edge and squeeze in that sound, just not enough to where we have those extra vibration sounds in the tone. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, why didn't he go up to the high note that he goes up to? What's going on there? Was his voice tired? Was he playing it safe? Is this just the way he wants to interpret the bridge now? I liked him going up. I thought it was exciting, but hey, he's an artist. He gets to do what he wants expressively, and if that's what he's feeling in this moment, more power to you, Teddy.
When you're not next to me,
there's some of that grit.
I'm falling apart right in front of you. Can't you see? I lose
control. See all that mouth reshaping he's doing there? Wow. Amazing tone. Amazing tone. He has one of the most interesting tones out there in the world of music right now. I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of the way he came up, too. He came up on YouTube, basically. Like, he was doing a lot of covers, and then he wrote some music, and now he's huge. Huge, huge, huge. So that's my thought about Teddy Swims. I think he's got a long future ahead of him, provided that the lifestyle stuff doesn't get him and that over singing by performing too intensely too frequently. I had one voice teacher back in college who used to say that the 3 2s will get you: too high, too loud, and too long. And provided that Teddy can stay in those parameters, I don't hear anything in his vocal technique that's telling me that he's going to blow things out. That's my professional take as a voice teacher. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, though. I'm curious what your thoughts are about it. I'm a huge Teddy Swims fan, and I'm glad that I got to hear this. I can't wait to hear more of his stuff. He's a big name on the scene, so super exciting to listen to that. If you like this, subscribe, click the little notification to stay up to date. I've got lots more videos coming. Talk to you soon.